Hey everybody, it's Miss Ava Hart, and I am back for part 2 of Letter from Birmingham Jail. So the first part 1, I gave you the background information of the nonfiction informational text Letter from Birmingham Jail. I just gave you a background. I gave you context of why Dr. King even wrote this letter. And in part 1, I answered 7 questions. So I need to do a correction. This assignment is worth 25 points and it has 12 questions. Okay, 12 questions is worth 25 points and it has 12 questions, and you have an extra credit question. So in this video, we're going to answer questions 8 through 12. Okay, so we're going to actually start. I'm going to actually start reading Letter from Birmingham Jail. So I am in your textbook, My Perspectives. I'm on page 271 and I'm on paragraph 1. So the 16th of April 1963. Remember, Dr. King is responding to 8 white clergymen. He read an article in the newspaper. 8 white clergymen were criticizing him, and he wrote Letter from Birmingham Jail in the margins of the newspaper. This will be considered the margins of the newspaper, okay? So I'm on page 271, paragraph 1, the 16th of April, 1963. My dear fellow clergymen, while confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. Seldom do I pause to answer criticism of my work and ideas. If I sought to answer all the criticisms that crossed my desk, my secretaries would have little time for anything other than such correspondence in the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill, and that your criticisms are sincerely set forth, I want to try to answer your statement in what I hope will be patient and reasonable terms. So this is Ms. Aberhart's interpretation of this paragraph. Basically, Dr. King is saying, I'm sitting up here in the jail. I'm reading your statements. You telling me that it was just not the time for me to be up in Birmingham, Alabama, engaging in protests. So you felt the need to, I guess, take out a section of the newspaper and publicly address the fact that you didn't like the fact that I'm up in Birmingham and I'm protesting against racial segregation. You telling me that this was not the time, and it wasn't very smart of me to do that. And so Dr. King says, usually I don't have time to be answering criticism because I got too much work to do. And if I took the time out of my day to answer all the criticism that I get, I wouldn't be able to do anything productive. But since I got some time on my hand because I'm up in this jail cell, then I'm going to answer you. That is Ms. Aberhart's interpretation of that paragraph. Okay. So that's how I want you to approach this. Have fun with it. Like, when you read something, summarize it and put it in your own words. Have fun with it. Because that's basically what Dr. King was saying. Okay? So, let's see. I just answered number 8. What criticism did Dr. King face from white clergymen? They basically told Dr. King that it was not the time nor the place for you to be protesting in Birmingham, Alabama. That the white clergymen were telling Dr. King that his decision to protest, it was not the time for it, and it was not a smart decision. It was not the time for it, and it was not a smart decision. The 8 white clergymen were telling Dr. King that his protest in Birmingham, Alabama, it was not the time for that, and it was not a smart decision for him to do that. So that's the criticism that these 8 white clergymen presented to Dr. King. Like, bro, you know, you tripping. Why you coming down here, Birmingham? Why you coming down here to Birmingham, Alabama, with all this foolishness and nonsense? This is not the time for this, and that wasn't too smart on your end to do that. Now, I want to say this before I go to paragraph number 2, that Dr. King's example, he broke a law. He knowingly broke a law. I'm not saying that you go out there and you just be, you know, just willy-nilly and I'm just going to be breaking laws. Dr. King was very well aware of his actions. When he went to Birmingham, Alabama, and he decided to engage in a protest, Dr. King knew what he was doing, and he was prepared to face the consequences of his actions. And that is a life lesson that he is teaching you. That be prepared to take the consequences of your decisions. Yes, you may be fighting against the injustice, but know that if laws are in place, you must be willing to face the consequences of you breaking that law. Because remember, ignorance of the law is no excuse. You cannot stand before a judge and say, well, I did not know that law existed. The judge is not going to care that you did not know. You are still going to be punished because you broke the law. So please be mindful of that. Dr. King was willing to face the consequences of his decision. He knew that it was unlawful to protest in Birmingham, Alabama, but he did it anyway. And he was willing to face the consequences, which was going to jail. I really want to make that clear. Really want to make that clear. That we just can't be out here just doing what we want to do and thinking that there's no consequences to our actions. Because there's consequences to our actions. And Dr. King knew that. All right. So the 8 white clergymen were criticizing Dr. King for coming down to Birmingham, Alabama and engaging in protests. They criticized him. They said it was not the time for that and that his decision was not a smart decision. All right. Paragraph number 2. I think I should indicate why I am here in Birmingham, since you have been influenced by the view which argues against outsiders coming in. I have the honor of serving as president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, an organization operating in every southern state with headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. We have some 85 affiliated organizations across the South, and one of them is the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights. Frequently, we share staff, educational, and financial resources with our affiliates. Several months ago, the affiliate here in Birmingham asked us to be on call to engage in a nonviolent direct action program if such were deemed necessary. We readily consented, and when the hour came, we lived up to our promise. So I, along with several members of my staff, am here because I was invited here. I am here because I have organizational ties here. So in paragraph 2, Dr. King is saying, okay, since you want to be all up in my business, and since you want to know why I'm in Birmingham, I'm going to tell you why I'm in Birmingham. Dr. King was president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He was president. And so the Southern Christian Leadership Conference had different chapters in different places across the country. And one of them happened to be in Birmingham, Alabama. So because he was president, the chapter in Birmingham, Alabama said, hey, look, if we got to roll out and we got to protest, we need to know that you're going to be on call and you're going to be willing to come down and roll with us. And Dr. King was like, yeah, bet, I got you. If you feel it's necessary for us to protest, then I'm there. You calling me at 12 a.m. in the morning, I'm there. I'm going to get a group of people and we there. We coming. And so Dr. King is telling these 8 white clergymen, I was invited here. I was invited by one of our chapters of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Birmingham, Alabama. They invited us here. And I'm a man of my word. If I told them that I would show up when it got heavy, when it got thick out here in these streets, then I'm going to show up. And that's what I did. I showed up. I'm laughing because this is so hood, but that's how you have to look at this. Like, that's how you have to approach literature and comprehend literature. So, I mean, I'm giving you, how I would look at it. That's, to me, that's what Dr. King was saying in 2020 terms. Okay? So he was in Birmingham, Alabama, question number 9, because he was invited there. He was invited there by one of the chapters of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference organization. He was invited by one of the chapters of the Southern Christian Leadership Organization. He was invited. He was invited to Birmingham, Alabama. He was invited there, and that's why he's there. Flat out. So he's the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference organization. He's the president. They have different chapters across the country. One of the chapters is in Birmingham, Alabama. And he gave his word as president that if they needed him to roll up, he was going to roll up. And so he did. He showed up. They needed him there in Birmingham, Alabama, and he came. He was a man of his word, and he came. So he is there because he's there in Birmingham, Alabama, because he was invited there. All right, paragraph number 3. But more basically, I'm in Birmingham because injustice is here. Just as the prophets of the 8th century BC left their villages and carried their "Thus saith the Lord" far beyond the boundaries of their hometowns, and just as the Apostle Paul left his village of Tarsus and carried the gospel of Jesus Christ to the far corners of the Greco-Roman world, so am I compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my own hometown. Like Paul, I must constantly respond to the Macedonian call for aid. Now, unless you grew up in the church, you have to remember that Dr. King was a minister. He was a pastor. He was a reverend first. So his roots are in the church. So he's going to quote the Bible. So in paragraph 3, he's saying, I'm just doing what the prophets in the Bible did. Just like Paul showed up when they needed him in the Bible, I'm the modern day Paul. I'm going to show up when my people need me. That's what he's saying in paragraph 3. All right, paragraph number 4. Moreover, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of a mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Never again can we afford to live with the narrow, provincial, outside agitator idea. Anyone who lives inside the United States can never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds. So Dr. King in paragraph 4, he was so smooth and he was so polite with it. Because the white people, the white A clergymen basically looked at Dr. King as an outsider. You don't even live here. So you coming up on our turf, causing all this agitation, causing all this trouble, all this chaos with your protests, and you don't even live here. And Dr. King is like, wait, hold up. We cannot keep living life in this narrow-minded point of view, saying like that whatever's happening in Birmingham, well, that's Birmingham's problem. Because I live in Atlanta. And I got to worry about what's in Atlanta. Dr. King is like, no, we can't be so narrow-minded, because whatever is happening to my black brothers and sisters in Birmingham is happening to my black brothers and sisters in Atlanta. Because if it happened to them in Birmingham, eventually it's going to happen to us in Atlanta. That's what Dr. King is saying. Dr. King is saying we're not separate. We're not separate. Just because you live in Birmingham and I live in Atlanta does not mean I should turn a blind eye. Because if you treating my people wrong in Birmingham, it's a matter of time before it's going to happen in Atlanta. So Dr. King is like, no, 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 no. You're not going to do this divide and conquer with me. You're not going to act like, oh, well, you just stay over there in Atlanta because you're not from Birmingham and this ain't your business. Dr. King is like, no, if it affects anybody that looks like me, I don't care where they live, then it is my business. That's like I live on the west side of Detroit. But guess what? If it's popping off on the east side of Detroit, what makes me think it's not going to eventually come over here and affect me on the west side of Detroit? Whatever is going on in the city of Detroit, period, regardless of where I live, it's going to affect me. I can't live in this little bubble and say, well, that's what they do on the east side. That's them east siders over there. I don't get down with them. And that ain't none of my business. No, I can't say that. Because it is my business. Because eventually, whatever is happening on the east side, it's going to come on the west side. And that's what Dr. King was saying. Like, you white clergymen are saying, oh, you need to just stay in your place in Atlanta. And Dr. King is like, no. If one person is treated unfairly, then we all treated unfairly. We going to ride or die together. I'm not just going to ignore what's going on in Birmingham because I'm not from there and I don't live there. Absolutely not. You better come again. So that's in paragraph number 4. That's what Dr. King is saying, that we're all connected. We're all connected. All right, paragraph 5. You deplore, and now he's talking to the white clergymen. You deplore the demonstrations taking place in Birmingham. But your statement, I am sorry to say, fails to express a similar concern for the conditions that brought about the demonstrations. I am sure that none of you would want to rest content with the superficial kind of social analysis that deals merely with effects and does not grapple with underlying causes. It is unfortunate that demonstrations are taking place in Birmingham, but it is even more unfortunate that the city's white power structure left the Negro community with no alternative. So Dr. King is saying, look, you over here mad about the demonstrations that's taking place in Birmingham, but you not mad about why they're happening. That's like people getting mad about the protests that we see with the Black Lives Matter, with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. That's like people being mad at that, but you're not mad at what caused those protests. That's what Dr. King is saying. You mad at me protesting, but you're not mad at what the reason why we're protesting, what caused us to protest in the first place. Like, y'all need to come better. Like, you can't be mad at me protesting, but you don't question the fact of why we're protesting and what caused the protest. But you want to know why? They're not going to question the fact or be mad at the fact of why these protests are even occurring. Because if I start looking at the fact of why these protests are occurring, then I got to look at me. The white people got to look at themselves now. Because they're the reasons why these protests are occurring. See, they don't want to look at themselves and take responsibility for how they're treating black people. It's so easy to just say, no, you shouldn't be here in Birmingham, Alabama protesting. Oh, it's real easy to say that. But it's harder to say, oh, I'm the reason why you're protesting because I'm treating you like crap because of your skin color. And Dr. King is like, no, you can't have it both ways, brother. You can't be mad at you can't be mad at us protesting, but you're not mad at the reasons that caused us to protest. Like you being a hypocrite. And I'm calling you out on your mess, but he's so smooth with it. He's so nice with it. See, I was a little harsh with it. He was so smooth with it. He was like, oh, you deplore the demonstrations taking place in Birmingham. But your statement, I'm sorry to say, fails to express a similar concern for the conditions that brought about the demonstrations. He's so nice. He's so nice with it. He's so polite and respectful. And I'm like, no, bro, don't be getting mad at me when you caused this. The white people would have looked at me like, okay, we about to lynch this girl for real, for real. But Dr. King, he used diction. He used words that were respectful and polite in order to get his point across. But that's just the 2020 translation of that paragraph. He's saying, how you going to get mad at us protesting, but you're not going to get mad at the reasons why we're protesting or what even caused the protest to begin with. And he's also saying that the white power structure of Birmingham, which I believe was Bull Connor. Oh, if my history is correct, my memory of history, Bull Connor was he was the commissioner of public he was the commissioner of public safety for the city of Birmingham, Alabama. When you study Black history and the civil rights movement, Bill Connor was no joke. Bill Connor was ruthless. He was a white man who was ruthless. He was the one who gave the okay to turn the dogs and the water hoses on those protesting in Birmingham, Alabama. This man was ruthless. He was savage. So, Dr. King is saying that the white power structure in Birmingham, Alabama, he didn't name no names, but they knew who he was talking about. See how respectful he was? Because I would have been like, look, your main man, Bull Connor, he the reason why we got to protest. See, I just would have been out front with it. But Dr. King, his diction was so nice and polite and civil. And he was like, the white power structure gave us Negroes no other alternative but to protest. See how nice that was? Versus saying, your man's Bull Connor is the reason why we out here doing this. See the difference? I'm showing you the difference of how Dr. King was very polite and civil in the way he addressed the white clergymen and in their criticism of his actions. So basically he's saying, y'all left us no other recourse. We had no other choice but to protest. We had no other choice but to protest. That's the answer to number 10. The white power structure left the Negro community with no alternative but to do what? To protest, to break the law. Because you keep putting these laws in place that are just unethical or unfair. So the white power structure left the Negro community with no alternative but to break the law and protest. The white power structure left the Negro community with no alternative but to break the law and protest. That's the answer to number 10. So number 11. Number 11, I want you to go back and read the first paragraph. And I want you just to pick out 3 words. Because, let me read it to you. Read the first paragraph of Letter from a Birmingham Jail. Underline 3 words that prove that Dr. King used diction that was respectful and civil, or respectful and polite, when writing to the white clergymen of Birmingham, Alabama. So you're going to go back and read the first paragraph of Letter from Birmingham Jail, and you're just going to underline 3 words to show that Dr. King was respectful and civil, or respectful and polite, when writing this letter. I just need 3 words so that I know that you know what diction is, that you can identify diction. So I'm going to read the paragraph again. This is the first paragraph of Letter from Birmingham Jail. While confined here in the Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. Seldom do I pause to answer criticism of my work and ideas. If I sought to answer all the criticisms that cross my desk, my secretaries would have little time for anything other than such correspondence in the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill and that your criticisms are sincerely set forth, I want to try to answer your statement in what I hope will be patient and reasonable terms. So, based on that paragraph that I just read again, I want you to underline 3 words that prove that Dr. King used diction that was respectful and civil, or that was respectful and polite. That's number 11. You get 3 points for every word that you underline. Number 12. In the same paragraph, who is Dr. King talking to, and what is his attitude toward his audience? So number 12, that paragraph that I just read for number 11, I want you to answer the question, who is Dr. King talking to, and what is his attitude toward his audience or his subject? Because that's the definition, that's part of the definition of diction. So I want you for number 12, the paragraph for number 11, I want you to answer, I want you to tell me, who is Dr. King talking to, and what is his attitude toward his subject or toward his audience? How does he feel about the people that he's talking to in this paragraph that I just read for number 11? That's number 12. And then the extra credit is this. It's worth 5 points. How did Dr. King use his words to inspire change in his letter from Birmingham Jail? Based on the 5 paragraphs that I read, you can answer this question. How did Dr. King use his words to inspire change in his letter from Birmingham Jail? That's extra credit and it's worth 5 points. All right, so I've read all 5 paragraphs because I was only going to read the first 5 paragraphs and paraphrase them and give you my interpretation of them. And I was going to answer the questions that go along with this assignment. So for this video, I just answered questions 8, question 9, question 10, question 11. I explained what I'm looking for question 11. And number 12, I explained what I'm looking for question 12. And I gave you the extra credit question. The extra credit question is, how did Dr. King use his words to inspire change in his letter from Birmingham Jail? You should be able to answer the extra credit question. If you watched both videos, part 1 and this is part 2, you should be, even though we didn't even read all 49 paragraphs, you should still be able to answer this question for extra credit, 5 points. How did Dr. King use his words to inspire change in his letter from Birmingham Jail? All right, so that's it. That is it. I just went over in 2 videos. I just went over all 12 questions for this assignment. So that is all. Good day, people. Good day.